problems in the book or practice questions or that kind of thing, that's a good way to study as well. Make up problems based on the homework. That's what I do a lot because the students have already seen those homework problems. So I'll look at the homework problems and make up a problem that's kind of like it, has different numbers, maybe I'll change a couple of things, push them to just do a bunch of different types of problems so they're comfortable when they get to the test. Help them make connections between concepts. Use visual aids, especially for like chemistry and biology, those kinds of classes. Make sure they're using visual aids. A lot of students will tell you that they think that they're visual learners. That may or may not be true, but if they're willing to work a little harder when they have a visual aid, I would say definitely capitalize on that. And then again, let the student take the lead. Give them an opportunity to own the learning process. Ask them what they want to review. Most of the time, you're not going to have time to review every single thing that's going to be on the exam. So if they're comfortable enough saying, I really didn't get this concept, that's what we need to go over for the exam. That's going to be really helpful because you guys aren't going to be spending time on things that they know how to do, right? You want to spend time on the things that they're most uncomfortable with. Okay, post-exam. So we do not cancel tutoring sessions after a test. So a lot of times, student will be like, I don't know what to do. We didn't go over any new concepts. This is stupid. Why am I here? Post-exam is a really, I do a good impression of the students, right? I've been doing this for too long. Post-exam is a really good opportunity to sort of reflect over, think about what worked in the past few weeks, what didn't work, and talk to the student about the exam. So ask them to assess their performance. How do you think you did, right? Tell them to be honest with you, okay? Sometimes they'll be like, I did great, and then they get the test back and it's like a 40. So ask them to assess their performance. If they can remember questions or if they can remember things that they didn't understand, go over those things again. I know it may seem redundant, but they're gonna get tested on it again in the final anyway. And those concepts are gonna be built upon as they go through the test, or as they go through the class. So even though it's like, oh, after the test you feel like, okay, we can take a break, right? You really want to make sure that they understood those things, you know, because they're going to be built upon throughout the semester. So I'll go over questions. They'll say, you know, I think I missed the question on, you know, whatever, integrals. And I'll be like, all right, let's just go over it one more time because you're going to have to do double integrals in a week, right? And you need to know how to do this. So I'll go over things that they think they missed. Sometimes I'll just look at the old homeworks to sort of jog my memory or help them jog their memory. They'll be like, oh yeah, that problem that looks like this. I did not get that problem. And then show how the information they learned for the exam is important for future topics. So again, even if they were like, I don't really know, like everything seemed fine, I'll be like, okay, I know in the next few weeks you guys are going to do this. Let's just go over these concepts one more time so you understand and you're really prepared for when the professor starts talking about this particular concept. Okay? And then once the student gets the exam back, a lot of times I hear they think they went into it super prepared. I'm going to get 100 on this test. I'm super prepared, but they do poorly. Or they don't recognize the problems or the questions. And that's something I hear a lot from my students, and I'm sure you guys are going to hear that, or you have heard that a lot. So here's a couple of things that you can do, or here's sort of a couple of warning flags. First, they're probably not learning concepts. They're probably just learning surface level stuff. So they memorized a formula and one keyword and a problem, but they get to the actual test and that keyword isn't in it, and then so they don't know how to do the problem, right? They didn't actually memorize the concept, or they didn't understand the concept, and so make sure that you're teaching the concept, okay? They're not able to do problems without assistance. So sometimes you think they're doing really good, but you realize, hey, they ask for the same formula every time, or they ask me a question during every single problem they do. They've never done a problem on their own. And when they get to the test, they see something and they like look up to ask you a question, but you're not there, right? So make sure they're able to do problems on their own. And sometimes that's as simple as saying like, hey, even though this isn't for homework, I want you to do these extra problems because we finished the homework, or you already finished the homework, but I want you to be able to do these problems on your own before you come back, you know, on Wednesday or whatever. They're only engaging in surface level thinking. This is what I see in the science classes a lot. So they memorize the parts of the cell, but they don't understand what those parts of the cell do, or or they don't understand the interaction between them, right? They're only engaging in surface level thinking, and the professor is asking them to think deeper and analyze and elaborate, and they're not able to do that. So it's your job to sort of encourage them to do that, okay, by asking engaging questions and those sorts of things. They're successfully putting on a facade of knowing, right? So sometimes they're even fooling themselves. And that first exam is a real eye-opener sometimes. And they realize that, oh, I don't really know this content. I don't know this material. And so it's up to you to sort of help them dive into it. It's up to you to sort of make them feel comfortable so they can say to you, I do not understand this. Sometimes they say in class, I have no idea what's going on. Can you help me with this? And they are not working or studying outside of sessions. This is something I see with my students a lot. They'll work really hard for that 1 hour when they're with me, and then that's it, right? And we're all students, or we're students at one time. A couple of hours a week is not gonna cut it, especially for these math and science classes. So it's really about encouraging them to do things outside of those sessions. You know, even if you're sort of just giving them small tasks to do, hey, can you read these couple of pages? Can you do these couple of problems? That's really gonna help you for the next exam. It's gonna help prepare you. Okay, so a couple of roadblocks to success. The first is WebAssign. How many people tutor math again? Are you guys returners or new tutors? How many people are new? How many people are returners? Okay, all right. So WebAssign is sort of an issue. So students are not allowed to work on their actual WebAssign assignments during sessions, right? And this seems to really irritate them, okay? So this is the procedure, okay? This is what I have my students do. It works out really well. So first of all, they should be attempting those WebAssign assignments before they get to tutoring, right? Because that's gonna help them figure out, hey, these are the things I know, I can do this down pat. These are the things I don't know. Have them print off the assignment and bring it with them to tutoring, okay? And if they've done what you told them to and attempted the assignments, they can say, question 2, I have no idea how to do that, okay? So they can't work on question 2 with you, but you can make up a problem that looks a lot like question 2 and go over that. Or you can say, oh, this is on derivatives, let's go over derivatives really quick. Then I'll make up a problem, and you can try that, right? You can't do the WebAssign science for them. You can't encourage them to work on those actual problems during the session, but you can certainly make up a million problems on the board and go over those concepts as much as possible. And that seems to be a really good way to keep them engaged, and it helps them because they can take all those problems that they went over in the tutoring session, go back to their WebAssign, and they'll have examples of how to do the problems, and it'll help them get those done. So I think that's the best way to do that, to sort of get around this idea that they can't work on those WebAssigns during sessions. And it's a homework grade, it's a graded assignment, they should be doing it on their own, but this is a really good way to help them sort of understand those concepts, and for you guys to feel like you're really accomplishing something during the session. Sometimes you won't need to do that, sometimes they'll just come in and say, I don't understand, you know, whatever. And you guys can go over that, and then they can just go out on their own and do the WebAssigns or whatever. But if for a lot of students, they're not comfortable saying, I don't know how to do this, or this is the concept I'm not comfortable with, or that kind of thing. This is a good way to do it. Sometimes they won't have even attempted the WebAssigns, so still have them print it out, bring it to the session, and then just take a couple minutes and look over it and just say, if they say, oh yeah, I'm definitely not gonna know this one, or this one, or this one, those are the types of problems that you wanna go over, okay? Okay, unengaged students, right? So sometimes you'll have students, you'll come in, you'll be super motivated, enthusiastic about learning math or chemistry or whatever it is, and the student is like, I hate this, I don't want to be here, I just want to go home and sleep, right? So these are a couple of things. First, I think it's important to figure out why is the student unengaged, right? So sometimes they're just tired, right? They have a crazy schedule, they might have been up at 5 o'clock to go to practice, then they have class, then they have tutoring, right? Sometimes they're just tired. Sometimes I'm tired, and I'm not doing what they're doing. So sometimes that's just the issue. Sometimes they're not paying attention in class, and so when you ask them, what do you want to go over today? They don't have an answer for that because they have no idea what happened in class. Sometimes they're confused and they don't want to feel vulnerable. So they're using disengagement as like a defense mechanism, right? They don't want you to see them not knowing how to do something, right? Keep in mind that these are students who are performing at the top of their sport. They're used to being really competent at what they do. And they don't really like being in situations where they're not good at something. And so this is a way for them to sort of hold you at arm's length and not show you that, hey, I'm not good at this and I need help with this. Sometimes they just don't know where to begin. They've never taken a class like this before. They have no idea where to even start or what questions to ask or anything like that. They might be paying attention in class, but they don't know how to take notes. They don't know what they should write down. They don't know what a PowerPoint is. They don't know how to get the PowerPoints on Moodle. They just don't know. And so again, disengagement is a way for them to not show you how far behind they are. So what are some of the things that you can do, okay? So if they're just tired, and sometimes like I know my students well enough to know when they come in and they're just tired, and sometimes they'll say get some water. We'll take a lap around the building sometimes, stretch, whatever you need to do to sort of like just wake up for that hour. If they're not paying attention in class, I would have them pull out the syllabus, review note-taking skills, encourage them to sit front and center, have them just try to think like, okay, what did you guys go over? Let's go over these couple of concepts so at least you have an idea of what happened in class, right? And sometimes that's just starting with the syllabus to see, what concepts did you do in class? If they're confused and they don't want to feel vulnerable, help them feel comfortable making mistakes, be patient, don't act shocked at gaps in their learning. So if you've never done this before, if you've never tutored this population before, and a student comes in and they don't know how to add two fractions together, sometimes that can be like, whoa, you should know how to do this. But you want to act like that's no big deal. Oh, yeah, let's just go over this really quick, you'll understand it, and then we'll be able to move on. So just don't act shocked when there are things that you think that they should know that they don't. Okay, everybody has a different K-12 education. Everybody comes into these classes in a different place. You want to meet them where they are, but make them feel comfortable about that, okay? If they don't know where to begin, start from the beginning, right? If they're just sitting there looking at you like, I have no idea what to do, or they're looking at the ceiling or at their phone, start from the beginning. Pull out the homework, right? Look at the PowerPoints, look at the textbook, use the tutor cycle to go through the session. That's going to help you. Make sure you're looking at the syllabus to see what they're doing in class, even if it's, if you take a session and you look at the book and you sort of just go through the concepts that are presented in the book, that's going to help them, okay? Okay, the last challenge I see is limits to expertise, right? So you're not the instructor, you don't have a PhD in chemistry or math or statistics or accounting or anything like that. So there is definitely going to be a limit to what you know, okay? And I've been in sessions before when students have brought me something and I don't know how to do that, and that's a challenge. As a tutor, you don't want to you want to have all the answers. I know I always want to have all the answers. But I think sometimes when you reach your limit of expertise, it's a really good opportunity to sort of collaborate with the student. So work through problems or concepts together with your student, especially if go over an old web assignment where you have the answer, right? Take that problem, work on it together, talk about the concepts together. If you can show them that it's okay to make mistakes, it's okay to struggle a little bit, right? I think that they're gonna feel more comfortable being vulnerable in that session. And show them that persistence pays off, right? When you persist in the face of challenges, you can finally get to that right answer, and it feels so great, and you can celebrate together, and it's awesome. Sometimes, like, the best tutoring sessions I've had are when I'm working with a student and we're like trying to get one problem and we can't get it, and finally it all comes together and we're explaining it to each other, and it's such a great learning environment, and the student is learning because they're explaining things to me, I'm explaining things to them. It's great. And at the end, if you can get the answer, it's like the most satisfying thing ever. That's why math is great. Don't be afraid to make mistakes in front of the student. Encourage them to teach you things, and then approach the problem or concept as equals, okay? Okay, does anybody have any questions so far? Okay, I have a couple little things. Some resources that I've used in the past. Does anybody know what Crash Course is? So Crash Course is a YouTube series that is done by John and Hank Green. And there's if you tutor other things besides math and science, there's literature, there's economics, there's a bunch of stuff. But they do have ones for chemistry, biology, psychology, and physics, and anatomy and physiology. So if there's something you want to learn, that's a good place to go. If there's something that your student is really struggling with, you can look at those. They have different, there'll be chemistry, and then they'll have a bunch of different topics under chemistry, whatever. It's really good. They're really well produced. They're really engaging and funny, and they're great. I really like them. Khan Academy is really good for math. They have a YouTube series too, but their website is really good as well. Purple Math is not the prettiest website, but I found so much information there. Just if I'm oh, I can't remember this formula, or I can't remember the process for this, I'll look it up on Purple Math. It's a really great resource. And then the Math 105 textbook. So the Math 105 textbook is online, which is a terrible idea for a math textbook. I have a couple printed out in my office. So if there's something you want to look up, or if you want to use that math textbook during your sessions, you can pop by my office and I'll give you a copy of it. It's just put together with a clip. But I do not like online textbooks at all. I need something physical in front of me to use. And so I used it a ton this summer when I had students in Math 105. It was really, really helpful. And then just a couple of concluding thoughts. First, patience is your most valuable asset. Be patient with your students, be patient with yourself. Sometimes it's going to take a while for you to develop a relationship for a student, for them to feel comfortable coming to you, and asking questions and that kind of thing. Encourage students to persist through challenges. Math and science classes are some of the hardest they're going to take here. It's going to be the classes that they're not going to want to do. They're probably going to be their least favorite classes. So encouraging them to sort of push through, to really challenge themselves, to work hard, and to see that hard work pay off. Create a judgment-free zone. Make sure that you're not... thought you'd like that. Make sure you're not judging them for what they don't know. And they can see it on your face, they can see it in your body language. So make sure that you understand that sometimes they're just coming in without that base level of knowledge that's going to help them succeed. Sometimes it's up to you to help them, remember those things or go over those things, that kind of thing. But just make sure that you're not judging them for that, so they feel comfortable. Showing you what they don't know. In doubt, ask a question. I tell this to all my mentors too. If you have any questions, come and find a full-time staff member. If you're not sure if an assignment you can work on with a student, if you don't know, you think maybe the student didn't go to class, you think there's something funny going on, ask a question, find a full-time staff member. There's always people here. And my last thing is, you are not responsible for the successes and failures of the student, right? That responsibility is ultimately on them. You are certainly an important part of the support plan that we put together for our students, but it's not your responsibility to make sure they succeed. That's their responsibility. So you never ever want to do something that's going to compromise your own integrity for the benefit of the student. And that's it. And then this is my contact. My office, as I said, is downstairs in that corner. It used to be a tutor room. If you want to stop by and ask questions, or you think of a resource that you think might be really helpful that I should know about, please stop by my office. You can email me. I'm there a lot. A lot of times I have students in my office, but if it's something really quick, knock on the door and come in unless it looks serious. But yeah. Any questions?
I can have a few.
Yeah.
So you're talking about looking up online lectures at Khan Academy.
Yeah.
How does that differentiate between bringing in outside resources?
Because those resources are available for anybody to, if you bring in your old textbook, right, that's not available to every student in the class, right? It's just available to that student who you're tutoring, right? But anybody can go on YouTube and watch a crash course on, physics or psychology or anything like that. right? So that's a lot different.
Okay, what
Yeah.
about, are they bringing textbooks to the session?
They should bring textbooks to the session, yeah. And if it's not something that you're ever gonna use, then that's fine, but they should be bringing their textbook to sessions. And if they're not, put that in your grades first report, your GPS report, and that's something that the advisor can address with the student.
What about on WebAssign with like the problems on like the practice another version option? As far as like if that was printed out, is that considered too close to the actual problem?
Yeah, I would just like not work on the actual WebAssign problems and just always make up your own problems. And there's usually problems in the book with the answers too. So if you're like concerned, like, ooh, I'm not really sure if we're doing this right, like, let's do one where you have the answer and you know that you did it right. Even if it's just like one of the example problems in the book or something like that. That I like it.
For like the YouTube videos, is that something that we should be doing, or we should more like recommend them to watch outside YouTube, or something that we should be doing? Yeah.
I think it depends. For some students, like you're gonna spend the whole session, really engaged in something, and so it probably wouldn't make sense to like take a break and watch a YouTube video, right? But for a student who maybe you're working with a student and you're really having trouble explaining a certain concept to them, or like you guys just aren't connecting on one certain thing. That's a good way, a good time to, hey, let's look at this YouTube video. Maybe this person can explain it better, or maybe you'll understand it if it's presented a different way. That kind of thing. I think that's when like those types of things are really good. Just to like get another perspective, or maybe like you guys have just hit a rut in your tutoring sessions and you want to kind of just do something different. I think that's a good opportunity for that.
If there's an outside resource that say I used when I took a class that was helpful, can I like recommend that to them to like look for them to look at or possibly purchase?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they're a regular student. If they want to go out and buy something that really helped you, or whatever, that's totally fine. Yeah, as long as you're not bringing it in and giving it to them. What else? How are we doing on time?
Good. We'll give them a break, but it's 9:45, they start again at 10.
Oh, perfect. Any more questions?
So, for chemistry, if you have like a molecular kit to make molecules and stuff, do you, like I have one, can I bring that in and show it to them, or do I need to require them to buy one for themselves and bring it in?
That's a joking question.
Yeah, if it's a couple things. If it's a requirement for the course, they're expected to get it. I think that as we cross that bridge, that's something we can talk about. If they don't have it, then let's talk about if that's okay we may buy one. We may buy one as a supplement and have it for all students who take the course, or do something like that. Because it is visual and tangible and all those things that would benefit. But we don't want you to bring in your own stuff. So we'll cross that bridge as we get there. But that is a good, I think we did have one at one point. So we'll look into it.
So at the library they have like human anatomy skeletons and muscle figures that you can rent out. Are we allowed to in any way like work with them with those during these